Welcome back, everybody. So welcome to our channel, Paranormal Contact. I'm Dave. This is Richard.
Hello.
And this week's podcast is all about Richard. Last week you had me. This week it's all about Richard. And I'm just going to ask him pretty much a series of questions, and we're going to get to hear his views on different paranormal things. And again, there's a couple of wildcard questions in this.
I've been looking forward to this.
This little interview. Okay, so I've got my notes. I have my questions.
Okay.
Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to go, Dave. I'm ready to roll.
Fantastic. So, I'm going to start off really simple.
Okay.
This isn't paranormal related. Just going to ask you to tell everybody about yourself, your interests, what you enjoy doing in your spare time.
So, my name's Rich. What am I now? I'm 58 years old. Don't know how I got to be this old. It just seemed to happen very quickly. Spare time, lots of interest. I've always been interested from probably my teenage years in anything paranormal. Over the years, it's been crop circles, UFOs, ghosts, strange civilizations. One of my greatest things is looking at the way civilizations seem to go in circles and things like that. What goes around comes around, and ancient knowledge, that type of thing. All of those things are of great interest for me. So yeah, quite a broad and varied subject for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we live here in Wiltshire, and it's one of the counties where there's lots of weird going on. So we get lots of crop circles. We've got Stonehenge, we've got Avebury, we've got all the long barrows and all the Neolithic sites and things like that around us. So it's quite an interesting place to live, and I think you just naturally tend to go towards those things because it's all around us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just this big draw.
It is a really big draw.
So
yeah,
very good.
Okay,
that's a good insight and a good start. So next up is, obviously last week you asked me what got me into the paranormal. So it's kind of like a mirror question. So what got you into the paranormal? Was it one thing that happened, or is that belief always been there from a young age?
I think what really started me on a journey looking at things differently. So we all went to school. We all had some good teachers, some bad teachers. Yeah. I'm quite interested in history, and that really got me interested in how did we get here? Where do we come from? So I was in school during the sort of 70s, I suppose, and there was a great book came out towards the end of I can't remember when it came out, but 60s and 70s, certainly it was really popular, which was by a guy called Eric von Daniken, and it was called Chariots of the Gods, I think was the first one. It was a series of books, and I just loved them. They really got me interested in the possibility that perhaps everything we've been told and how the world is perhaps isn't quite true.
Right.
Looking at things like, how were the pyramids built? How did those great big stones get moved? How did things like that happen? Could it be that we're being looked over by aliens that we're calling them gods, but they're something else? And that really just got me going, and from that point there was no stopping me. I just read every book I could ever think of on things like paranormal and things like that.
Nice, very good. There is a question coming up to do with the pyramids, which I'm going to be interested to see what your opinion is on this one, since it was mentioned in last week's podcast. So it'd be interesting to find out your views.
Okay.
So next up it's a simple question. Have you ever seen a ghost or a spirit?
So I have never been lucky enough to see a ghost or a spirit. No.
Right.
I have, however, heard and sensed ghosts and spirits many, many times over my life.
There's a great story that you tell me
Mm-hmm.
in one of the houses you used to live in.
Yeah, so basically, I lived in a very old cottage in a little place called Burbage, and there was a it was a lovely old house, great big Inglewood fireplace. You know, it was a real your chocolate box cottage really. And I remember one night we were sat down in there, the fire was going. You know, it was quite a nice evening, and there was only one big room upstairs with a bathroom on the end of that room. And we were sat downstairs. I think we had the TV on, watching TV. And I heard this noise from upstairs.
Right.
Now, at the time, one of my sons, Sam, he was quite young, and he used to come over, so he had toys and things upstairs. And we had this little toy, which was like a monkey, but it was like on a catapult.
Right.
So, and it had a monkey squeal noise when it hit something. Right. So you pointed it and you fired it at the wall, and when it hit the wall, it would go. Okay. So we were sat downstairs, nobody else in the house, and I heard a thud, and I heard the monkey squeal. My initial reaction was, oh, it's fallen off the shelf. I knew where it was. So. And then I thought I heard footsteps upstairs, so I thought, oh, who's up there? You know, well, how can there be anybody up there? Mm-hmm. So I went up the stairs and I had a look, and hey ho, the monkey was on the other side of the room, on the floor, from where it had been. There's no shelves on that side of the room, it was just a plain wall. Mm-hmm. And it had obviously been fired across the room and hit the wall and dropped to the floor. Nobody else in that house.
So, what do you think did that?
So, we had quite a few more instances in that place in the time I lived there. I kept finding my keys being moved around. At one time I found the keys were put in the oven in the kitchen. Couldn't find them for days, and suddenly they appeared in the oven in the kitchen. There was one time when there was the door that goes up the stairs. I don't know if you've ever lived in a really old cottage, you know what I mean. There's like a door with like a little thumb press that you press down and you lift the latch and you pull the door open. Yeah. Those doors don't fit in the frame very well. There's like a gap this big all the way around it. There was no such thing as draft excluding in the old days. It was like a big piece of wood that fitted into the hole. Yeah. So it was loose as anything. I mean, you could sort of see all around it. And one day I went to go upstairs and that door was solid. And when I say solid, I mean I grabbed it to open it, and I'm a fairly big guy. It wouldn't move in any way, shape or form. So it wasn't like there's a little bit of something trapped in the door somewhere and it's stopping it. It was like trying to move a wall. Yeah. And I shook it and I pulled it and I pulled and I, with all my strength, couldn't move it. And in the end, I just shouted, oh, for goodness sake, stop it. And I banged the door and it just went and fell open. And I thought, oh, that's a bit spooky.
Yeah, a little bit. I do enough.
So for me, I lived there for 3 years. I believe that there was a child spirit there, because it was always little practical jokes and prank things that seemed to be happening. I even had instances where I brought friends home and we'd be sat down in the lounge talking and they would say, oh, is your wife upstairs or are the kids upstairs? I say, no, we're here on our own. Well, I just heard someone run across the floor upstairs. And I'd say, yeah, I know, there's nobody here. And they sort of look at me and say, yeah, you're kidding. I'd say, go and have a look. Go and have a look. And they go upstairs and they come back down, they'd be as white as a sheet. And they said, I heard footsteps. I said, yeah, I know. I said, I can see the floor moving sometimes. See the ceiling move.
Yeah.
It was a really old, old place. Yeah. It wasn't like built like they are today. And yeah, I honestly believe there was a spirit of a child in that place. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. That's a pretty good activity, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's solid activity as well, to be honest.
I never felt threatened by it. It never felt like it was a malignant spirit or something that wanted to hurt me, but it wanted to have fun. It wanted to tease me and catch me out and trick me.
Is it right that you also found your keys in a tree one day?
So when we moved from there, we moved to this house here. Okay. And I think for a while that spirit came here.
Yeah.
Okay, because when we first moved, you know, the usual things are moving. I lost a set of keys to my motorbike. I couldn't find them. We hunted high and low, and I just thought, I've misplaced them. I'm going to have to get another set cut. And I walked out into our back garden, and I was walking up to our shed, and I just sort of glanced up, and my keys were hung in a tree. Now, you could say, well, I had 2 teenage children around at that time.
Mm-hmm.
One of them possibly, I suppose, could have taken them and hung them in the tree, but they weren't that way inclined really, and they had no reason to, and you know, I was quite annoyed that I'd lost the keys because it caused me some problems because my bike actually hadn't been moved yet.
Yeah.
It was still at our old address and I needed to go and get it.
Yeah.
And it was 2 or 3 days later that these keys appeared in the tree, and I'm sort of thinking, well, I don't think they would have taken it to that extreme if it had been a bit of a joke by then.
Definitely not.
We had a couple of little instances when we were here a little while after we moved, and then it seemed to die out, and it felt like it had gone. So I think that spirit followed us here, stayed for a while, and I think it probably went back to where it was, because possibly that was its home. But it quite liked teasing me, I think.
Oh, very cool. The one with the monkey, that story always scares me every time you told me that. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't scare me, it just sends a shiver down my spine.
It's one of those things, if you were there and you've seen it, you know that there is no earthly way you can explain what just happened. You know, it didn't fall on the floor off of a shelf. It came from a shelf on a wall here and hit a wall over there.
Yeah.
With nobody in the room. There's no explanation that I can think of for that. So
that's very cool and very, very interesting, I have to be honest with you. A nice simple question for you next is, do you have a favourite paranormal programme? Not necessarily directed at ghosts, it could be anything.
So I watch an awful lot of shit on the telly and on YouTube. I've got a lot of YouTube channels that I watch and subscribe to. I like... there's a really good channel out there called Paranormal Contact.
Yeah, I've heard of that channel.
You know, the 2 blokes on there are brilliant.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Absolutely amazing. But I wouldn't say I have a massive favourite. I mean, I just seem to get into certain things at certain times. Yeah. I always, you know, something will grab my interest, and it can be just a podcast on here, 2 people perhaps talking about experiences like we're doing here. And if that gets me, you know, I love like Joe Rogan podcasts and things like that. They're quite interesting. Yeah. And then I also like a chap. Oh God, I've forgotten his name. Gone blank now. They'll come to me in a minute. But some of the ancient alien stuff, you know, I watch a lot of that. I don't believe it all. I think, you know, like anything, things are embellished as time goes by. But I think there's a grain of truth in a lot of it. Ghost programs, I mean, I quite like things like Monster Quest and things like that. They're interesting to watch. Again, I'm not convinced a lot of the time that they've ever found anything or seen anything, but it's interesting to watch the stories. I like, there's a chap on here a while called Mr. Ballon, who tells stories and things like that. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I do love a good ghost story.
Yeah, and he tells some great ghost stories, you know, and so I love stuff like that. Love it. Yeah, all sorts of things.
Obviously, because with Halloween coming along, I've been watching a lot of channels that I've subscribed to, and there's a lot of ghost stories being told on these channels. And some of them, there was one, I think it was the other day, it creeped me out. I can't remember the story exactly, but I think it was along the lines of, let me think about this, let me put it the right way, dreams that were actually real.
Yeah.
It's from a channel called Scary Ghost Stories.
Yeah, I think I've watched a few of those.
It's actually like, these are just short little stories of just people having dreams, thinking that they were dreams, and they actually apparently turned out to be actually happening. I'm just like, some of that just, you know, send a chill down the spine.
Yeah.
There's other channels I've been watching with some great ghost stories going on at the moment with the Halloween month. It's absolutely amazing.
I mean, I tend to I like a story at bedtime. I guess that's going back to my childhood, because when I was a kid, didn't have any internet, so you either got a story read to you or you read to a story yourself.
Yeah.
So it's that thing, you know. At the moment, I'm quite into things about missing people. I think there's a real big interesting thing, especially in the American parks.
Yeah.
That really gets my interest, how many people go missing and the strange way they go missing and the search afterwards. And even better when they turn up and they have no idea how they got to where they are and they can't work out how they could have got to where they are. Great. You know, anything, mystery like that. I love it.
Fantastic. That's what we love to hear. It is just like the creepy kind of side that I love to watch.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So, where are we? Okay, so I'll go with this question. As we know, paranormal doesn't just mean ghosts or spirits.
No.
What other paranormal phenomena are you a strong believer in?
So I'm quite a strong believer in UFOs. When I say UFOs, I don't mean little green men coming down from Mars. Okay, I'm not saying I know what they are, but I've spent a lot of time in my late 20s, early 30s going to a place near here called Warminster, which had a massive UFO flap. Okay,
I believe they call that the Warminster thing.
Yeah. And I spent many a night sat up on Cradle Hill near Warminster in a deck chair, looking at the stars with binoculars or telescope or just a naked eye. And you get to understand what you're seeing. You will see satellites traveling across in different directions. They always travel in straight lines. And I remember watching a satellite one night, and it was traveling in the normal direction of a satellite, and I was just sat watching it. And all of a sudden it stopped, dead. And I thought, satellites don't stop. And then it went in a complete 90-degree opposite direction to which it'd been going. And I thought, that's odd.
That is odd.
Also around here, we live close to a place called Alton Barnes, which has quite a lot of crop circles, and there was quite a lot of UFO activity here during the crop circle sort of period around the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was also a lot of talk at the time of tests. The military were doing tests with certain types of really fast aircraft. I can't remember their name now, but they were
not like
stealth bombers and that type of thing. Yeah. And I remember one night I was walking back from the pub, and I looked up, and there was a triangular set of lights in the sky, and they moved very quickly and stopped, and seemed to be hovering, and then moved very quickly and stopped. Just the way they moved wasn't like an aeroplane or anything else. And then the bit that really got me was they seemed to be, so what I thought what I was looking at was like some sort of a triangular shaped object. And then they moved and stopped, and then they split and went in different directions. Wow. And then I thought, no, I have no idea what I'm looking at. Wow. And then they came back together. There was like a big ball of light, seemed to glow and glow and glow, and then they split out into the triangular shape again, and then they were gone. I'd only had a couple of pints. I wasn't pissed.
See, now that story is kind of really, really interesting, because my mum used to work in a pizza factory in Devizes.
Yeah.
Marriott's.
Yeah.
And she used to have this little moped that she used to ride back on. And we're talking early 90s.
Yeah.
Maybe early mid, I'd probably say about, definitely between 1990 and say 1994, around that area.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, knowing that I was probably 6, 7?
Yeah.
But then, maybe 7, whichever. I was near to. Anyway, around that time, is my mum come back, and there was this real big concern on her face. So I think she got to Churton.
Yeah.
It was about Churton, and she looked up in the sky while she was riding the moped, and there was a triangle.
Yeah.
In with 3 lights.
Yeah.
Going through the sky.
Believe me, it was around that time. 80s, 90s, it was really, really common to see it around here. And, you know, the military put a lot of it down that they were testing these sort of stealth planes and things like that could fly under radar. I think there was just a lot of talk of it, but I've always felt that it wasn't the planes that I saw. The way that they behaved wasn't like a plane.
Well, when you say they split, it just...
Yeah. Planes don't do that.
No, they don't. No, you're right.
And I mean, both myself and Dave, we live on the edges of Salisbury Plain, which is the area where the military do a lot of their testing, and they also do a lot of manoeuvres and things up there, practice their craft of warfare. So we're quite used to seeing, you know, lights in the sky, flashes in the sky, flares being fired up. We know what all those things look like.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything like that. I can't explain it. I've never been able to explain it, but doesn't mean it's not explainable. It's just I can't work out what it was.
No, you do see a lot in the sky around it.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, I've been up in the middle of the night talking to Linda in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I've been looking out my window and I'm going, I ain't a plane. There's an orange light going through the sky. It's not a plane.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is it? And you can't. And the biggest thing for me is you can't hear it.
Yeah.
You just can't hear nothing.
No.
And I was just like, what is that? And then Linda's kind of going, what is this? It's like an orange light going through the sky.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I mean, it as.
Who knows? Because we're on close to a military site, I often think some of the things we see could be military testing things out.
The one story, one that's not even a story because it's something that I witnessed, is I was going to come home from the pub one night, and you remember when the old local bus was going, Briggle bus and all that kind of stuff. Got off at my house, and the best thing was I wasn't the only one that saw this. The driver of the bus even saw this. I got off, I saw 3 lights in the sky, and I'm talking probably about. It wasn't high in the sky, it was low enough.
Yeah.
It was low enough. No sound, nothing. In any way, shape or form.
No.
Bus driver even saw it and I was just like, I don't know what that was, but I couldn't hear nothing.
No.
Then 2 days later, obviously where I work at Lark Hill.
Yeah.
And all that, I found out that they were actually just testing some drones.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And they were going over the flight path and all that. But there's other things in that sky around it.
Oh yeah. And I think it's, you know, whatever our knowledge of what the military have now, we know probably those things were being tested back then.
Yeah.
Who knows what's being tested right now? Who knows?
Exactly. So I'm just going to change the direction and I'm going to turn it from something paranormal to more of a debate. And as I was talking about Linda, as you know, Linda lives in America.
Yeah.
And I want to try and settle a debate with her.
Okay.
So for all of you that don't know, Linda is my girlfriend who I'm going to America to see next year for 3 months. And we've been talking for 3 years.
Yeah.
And there's just been this debate.
Okay.
That we've been having.
Right.
3-year debate. She thinks she's right. I think I'm right. So let's just put this to...
Okay.
And let's put it to the end. Which tea, as in a cup of tea, is better? Tea which is hot milk with sugar, or iced tea with lemon and sugar?
There's no debate to be had, Dave. Hot tea is the best. Always has been, always will be.
Exactly.
Iced tea is quite nice on a summer's day, but nah. Cup of tea, proper cup of tea, nice strong brew. Maybe 1 sugar, because look at me, I don't need too much sugar. 1 sugar, a little bit of milk, beautiful.
Exactly. Debate over, which means I win, you lose. There we go. Sorted. She will argue with me with that one. The reason why I put that one in there is because there's a series of questions here which are just going to go a little bit darker. Which I just want to kind of get your
lighten it up a little bit first. Yeah.
Yes. So the next question is what are your thoughts on dark entities, like as in demons, and all that. And plus that, it's like a kind of double-barreled question. Have you ever had an experience with one? A demon or dark entity?
Sorry about that. You can cut that bit out, Dave. So this is a bit of a tricky one for me. So a little bit more of an insight into me. I consider myself to be a pagan. That can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So it's not a religion, first of all. That's the wrong way to describe it. It's a belief system and a way of life. I very much believe in the old ways and the old ways of how things were before Christianity even. So do I think there are dark entities and things that are capable of doing evil? Yes, I do. Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I believe there are things like, they would be classed, I suppose, as fallen angels, which is what I believe demons to be. Have I experienced one? That it's hard to know.
Right.
Is the only way I could say that, because trying to differentiate between what would be perhaps a ghost, which would be the remnants of a person who lived on this planet, maybe stuck in a realm somewhere between wherever they're going and where they've been, and a dark entity that has a completely different set of knowledge and understanding to the world than we have. So, but the two can have similarities. For instance, that person that was once a person might be very confused, very mixed up, might have been quite angry when they died, might still be angry now, might give off this horrible dark vibe.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily evil though, it's just that's the unfortunates of how they passed on.
Yeah.
Whereas a dark entity is more there to I think to torment us. So
definitely,
most of my experiences with any type of ghostly phenomena, as I said, I've never physically seen it. I've sensed things though, and there are places that I know of where I can go and it feels uncomfortable. Let's put it like that. Yeah. I'm sure you've experienced things like that, and you get when you get that feeling, I think there's more going on there than perhaps we know or understand.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm on an investigation and I'm backing up, it's usually a very clear sign that whatever's there is either extremely angry or feels very threatening.
Yeah. So what I do think is, I mean, we do this not as it's fun, else we wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
But there's also a serious side to it.
Yeah,
and I like to do some sort of protection if we're going into something where we're not certain what's there. If it's a first time, I will tend to do some sort of protection. Who knows if it does any good? I don't know, and I hope I never have to find out. I feel protected when I've done it, and that's all that matters. And I think if you were to suddenly encounter something quite nasty, quite dark, I think you need to know that at least you can try and go somewhere. You've taken some precautions. You know, we've all seen things. I mean, I will cast a circle, get everybody to hold hands, and just say a prayer to. Say a prayer. It's not to God as we would know it, but to whoever you feel is your God who offers you any sort of protection. That's okay. I'm not belittling other people's beliefs or anything like that.
No.
So it doesn't matter if you're a pagan, a Christian, a Muslim, or whatever. You can do that same thing.
Yeah.
And give yourself some protection.
Definitely.
And I think it's a wise thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, even after like last week's podcast that we did, where I did the investigation at home yesterday. I purposely. So the reason why I protected myself yesterday is on Monday was the day I was supposed to investigate,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just setting up everything, just checking all the kit, every single battery and all my bits of kit, flat,
Yeah.
all of it.
Mm.
And obviously I put the little short up on the YouTube channel, a short video up, and there's a guy on there called David, and not me, David that watches our channel.
Different David.
Yeah.
Hi, David.
He we were pretty much in agreement that I was kind of thinking it was more something darker, or something was trying to stop me from investigating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you've seen the episode yesterday, there were certain things. I mean, I know I didn't catch that noise on camera.
Yeah.
But I also know what I heard.
Yeah.
And I know I changed it and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So I purposely protected myself.
Yeah.
On last night before I did it, because of how it felt on Monday.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a very, very good idea.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth protecting yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I've learned that.
Whether you believe it, whether you don't, what harm does it do to do it? If you're into this type of thing and you want to, you want to go anywhere, it's not going to hurt to do something, some form of protection for yourself. If it's a load of rubbish and it means nothing to you, it doesn't matter, does it? If it does some good and it protects you, well, then it might matter.
It's definitely advisable.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So at this point, I am going to take a moment. We're going to take a moment to have a little bit of a break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to it for the last part.
Okay.
The next question, I think you're going to like quite a lot.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
I look forward to it.
Okay. Right, so we just had a break.
Quick cigarette break. Yes, we're both dirty smokers.
Yeah. Filthy habit, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question was going to be something that I was going to ask you, which I'm really, really intrigued to see what your answer is going to be. But I have decided to hold that question off a little bit.
Okay.
I'm just going to. It's a nice, simple question, this one. Not much to it. So, out of the places that we've investigated, me and you have investigated so far, which has been your favourite?
You'll probably be surprised by this.
Okay, this is going to be interesting.
So you remember when we first used to go out, when we first went out over the downs, over the plain?
Or when we were supposed to be at boot camp?
Yeah. So just for the record, me and Dave were supposed to be going to do some keep fit at a boot camp. We did it quite often, but there were a couple of times when we decided we'd just go and get a kebab and go over the plain and look at this creepy stuff.
I forgot about that bit.
But yeah, that farmhouse, I think it's on our channel.
It is. It's the first investigation on it.
Yeah. There was a lot more to that because my phone went absolutely doolally there, and all the footage I have, we never managed to get off my phone. It just went crazy. But that was quite an interesting one. Although it was a really old house, and I don't know really any of the history. I know it previously. It used to be a farm up on Salisbury Plain, and then as the plane was taken back, they took back the land, and the house was sort of left, and they used it as training for the military. Mm-hmm. All the rooms are still intact, as you can see on the thing, but there's nothing in there, and there's no plaster on the walls. There's no ceilings in the place. But it just felt weird in there. Yeah, it really did feel weird. And we're going to go back. Oh, yeah. We're going to go back there and have another look.
Definitely. That was an interesting answer. I didn't expect that one.
Yeah.
To be fair, but we even had very limited kit.
I think we both just had a phone.
We had a phone and I had a digital recorder.
I think that was all we took.
That's all we took with us.
And then the second one for me was when we went to Ham Church, and I looked at, and I just used the app by my granddad's grave. That freaked me out. I don't get freaked very easily, but that did really make me think. If you haven't looked at that, take a look at that, because that convinced me that there was something to the apps that we use. And
I knew it was very believable because it's the one time I see Richard run.
I don't run much.
I didn't have my camera going at the time, but all I heard was Dave, and Richard running, and him out of breath. Just check out what just happened. And then he told me, I was like, Just get there straight away and see what happens, and see what else we can get. But yeah, it was, yeah.
So those two are probably my favourites so far.
Yeah, definitely. We got some good ones coming up as well.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot in the pipeline.
Yeah, there is.
A lot planned.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question.
The question.
This is the question.
Okay, I'm listening.
Who do you think made the pyramids?
Okay. It's going to take me quite a while to answer that, but I'll elaborate. So, my belief with the pyramids, I don't believe it was made, they were built by the ancient Egyptians. The reason I don't believe that is because of the sheer volume of rock that is within the pyramids. I can't remember the facts and figures without going and looking, but it's enormous. And the actual amount of time that would have taken to pile all that up, you know. And I mean, when I was at school and we were learning about it, the theories then were that it was done, the Egyptians made it and they used slaves to build it. I think even now we know that that wasn't true, because they found archaeological evidence that the people who were around there and working on the pyramids were actually quite well paid, quite well looked after. They definitely weren't slaves. So that in itself means that what I was taught in history when I was younger probably wasn't correct. However, there's never been, the fact that they say the theory is they were built as tombs for the pharaohs, has never been a mummy found in a pyramid. All the mummies are in the valleys of the kings in tombs, and the pyramid is something else, I believe. And my belief is it was there before the Egyptians. They may have worked on it, they may have done things to it. Same as the Sphinx, it was there previous to them. So this is where it starts to go a little bit deeper. I believe possibly that was made by the remnants of the people from Atlantis. Yes, I believe in Atlantis. I think maybe when Atlantis actually disappeared below the waves, some of those people managed to get away, and they had technology far, far above ours and far above the Egyptians. And I think either that is a remnant from that civilization, or even maybe even older than that. So I sort of believe that civilizations a long, long time ago, far back from the history that we can actually trace ourselves, had knowledge of moving stones. Some of the stones, I mean, not just the pyramids, but some of the stone buildings and the stones around the world, some of them weigh thousands of tons. And I remember once there was a question posed to a large building company, and I think it was something like McAlpines or something like that at the time. And they were asked, if you were given the project to go and build the pyramids right today, would you be able to do it? And they said, no, not even with all of our cranes, all of our things, that all the skills that we have, we could not recreate a pyramid in the way that the Great Pyramids are in Egypt. That makes me think, you know, we think we're pretty clever, we can do a lot of things, but the pyramids are an enigma. Also, a lot of the sites like Machu Picchu, places like that, some huge stones, and those stones you can't even get a cigarette paper between the stones, but there's no mortar.
Right.
And they were obviously, how did they get those stones like that? They look like they were nearly melted together, and they're not square. They are all sorts of intricate shapes, yet they all fit together. And
right.
An incredible way of building. And they've stood the test of time. Look how many earthquakes there have been in all those areas, yet it's all still stood up. Our buildings fall over.
Yeah, that is very true.
We don't have the knowledge to build that way. Yet they did. They had skills that we don't have. I'm not saying they had all of the skills we have, but we don't have all the skills they had either. That's my belief. So who do I think built it? I think it was before the Egyptians, by some sort of lost civilization.
Okay. It's interesting. I still believe they're just really good engineers. The Egyptians. It's only because I don't know it very well, you see. So.
Dave, you talked to me long enough, I'll show you.
Okay, fair enough. I'll leave that one there. That was the biggest question that I was going to ask you. So, where do I go next? That's the thing. Okay, we'll go with this one. So this is technically paranormal, but I just want to hear your views on this as well. So what's your take on the Mandela effect?
Yeah, I was quite into the Mandela effect when it first came out. I think it's an interesting concept. When you look at some of the things, I've watched a lot of videos on the Mandela effect, seeing different things, and after a long time of looking and watching, I think that probably the Mandela effect is something that's in our heads. We believe things. We totally believe that we know something. I mean, I think my favourite one is the little Monopoly man. Does he have a monocle on, or does he have no glasses or anything like that? I always thought he had a monocle.
He did.
I don't think he does. If you look on the Mandela effect.
No, he did. I've seen it in the adverts. That's true.
There you go. Have a look after this video. I can't remember. I've watched so many videos of it, but there's lots of them. I mean, there's the one in Forrest Gump where what's the famous line from Forrest Gump? Bet the box of chocolate. Life is like a box of chocolates, and you never know what you're going to get. It doesn't say it. It's not in Forrest Gump. That whole line is not there. It's something very...
What now?
Well, it's so-called, it's never been there yet. We would all cite that as one of the famous lines from that film. So...
You just messed me right up.
But I think it's stuff in our heads. You know, there's so many famous ones. There's there's a video that I think it was called Shazam or something like that, which was about a genie, and lots of people said they remembered watching it. And I mean, even where does the name come from? It's from Nelson Mandela. He was in jail, and then lots of people thought he had died and remembered him dying in jail and remembered his funeral. It never happened. Yet there's so many people remember that as a reality, you know? So I think it's a bit like when you get deja vu.
Yeah.
You know? I can't explain it, but you sometimes something's happen or going to happen. You think, I've been here before, I've done this. There's no explanation for it, but I think it's along those lines. I
did hear a theory about deja vu, though, from somebody not so long back, probably about a month. It was on YouTube, and I can't remember who it was. But they said that deja vu, there's a possible thing that it's something that you've already done, which your brain, a certain part of your brain is forgotten, but another part of your brain has remembered, but has stuck it into the back. And every now and again, it kind of just releases this little memory, and then you go, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah.
But you have done it before. It's just that memory is just firing out, and it just seems...
I think quite often I've had deja vu where I've gone somewhere and I think, well, I've never been here before, but I seem to know this place.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's a consciousness out there somewhere that we're all connected to.
Yeah.
I think years ago it used to be called the ether.
Yeah.
That was the word used to describe it, where there was like a body of knowledge that was out there that we all could tap into, you know, and there was ways that you could maybe get drift over from perhaps a past life and things like that. There's certainly lots of documented cases where people have had past life experiences. They've been born, and right from a child they've had beliefs and understandings way beyond their age, and they've felt like they don't belong here, and then when they've got old enough they've gone somewhere and they know an area that they've never visited. There's been lots of that. And I think that somehow, you know, memory, consciousness can pass between people. Who knows what happens when we're born and when we die? We don't, do we?
No, we don't know.
You know, we believe in ghosts, let's be honest. So we've got to believe that something can travel through those realms.
That is it. So I've got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
You ended with this question last week.
Yeah.
I'm not going to end this podcast for this question. I'm just going to ask you straight away. It's like, do you believe in ghosts?
Okay, easy answer for me. Yes,
Fantastic.
I do. I totally believe in ghosts.
Fantastic.
Don't know what they are, but I believe there is definitely something from either another realm or something left over when a body dies that is out there. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, that's good. That is fantastic. So, this question, I'll probably include two more, to be fair. Maybe, we'll see. So, you know of ley lines.
Yeah.
In this country, they run across this country. Now, do you think that ley lines can increase paranormal activity where they lay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. So, years ago I read the famous book on ley lines, The Old Straight Track by Alfred Watkins, which was sort of the basis of where the belief in ley lines sort of came from for a lot of people. Obviously, it's passed down in tradition from years and years and years. But when you look how many things are set on ley lines, when you just draw that line, I mean, if you've ever got a map and just put that map in front of you and then got a ruler and tried to line things up, you'll probably be quite amazed at what lines up.
Yeah.
If you go through, I can't remember all the sites, it's such a long time ago when I last looked at it, but you can line up Stonehenge. I think that goes through St. Michael's Mount and then across to somewhere in Paris, and it goes on and on and on, and it goes right around the world. So, and that ties in. So I was involved years ago with a little project about UFOs. All right.
Believe it or not. Okay, so we'll treat this as a double-barreled kind of question now, because that was probably my last question to you. Was that I knew you were quite involved.
Yeah.
What you're just about to talk about, so I was just going to ask you. Yeah. What your experiences were when you were doing that. As the ley lines.
There were so many people around back then involved in this, but one of the theories that I was talking to people about back in the 80s was that you could map out ley lines and you could predict where there was going to be UFO appearances.
Right.
Okay? Now, I didn't really get into the physics of this, but there was a guy, I've forgotten his blooming name, but he was a physicist, a very clever man, and he looked at what we'd started to put together and he took it forward, and he basically made a grid and a graph, and you could pinpoint a time, a day, and a place where a UFO should appear. Right? So I remember taking that. He came down and visited me, and we went up onto Alton Barnes Hill, because with his prediction, he said there should be a UFO appear above Alton Barnes on this date at this time. It's like 7 o'clock in the evening in the winter, so it was dark up there, and we went up to where it should be, because it was quite complicated how you had to plot it all out, And he plotted it all out and worked out where it should be, and we went up there and we waited and we waited and we waited and we waited, and I thought, man, nothing's going to happen. And then, just as we were about to give up, there was this bright light just appeared in the sky. His theory was that they were coming from other dimensions,
right?
And they were using ley lines and some of the old ancient sites. They were markers for them, and they were part of a power grid, in fact. Yeah. And there is a grid that you can map out around the whole planet, and they use that grid to travel and to power their ships.
Oh, so, it's actually really, really interesting. Yeah. Actually. I mean, I got two stories about ley lines. Now, I didn't experience these stories. These were stories. Well, actually, I remember going on an investigation. I can't remember. We had another team with us. This is more to do with ghosts and all that kind of stuff. Because there's a ley line that crosses as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Right.
Where a ley line crosses, you always get exceptional energy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So this guy, he was another paranormal investigator, and I cannot remember his name or the team it was. They were setting up, and he was just showing some videos and all that kind of stuff. And the video was, they did a paranormal investigation where apparently a ley line crossed.
Yeah.
And he goes, just watch this video. And there, out of the blue, there's a figure of somebody right where that ley line crosses.
Mm.
And they go there regularly and all that kind of stuff. And that, it was just a figure.
Yeah.
I was watching the video and I was like, I see it. I see it. It wasn't like a dominant figure, but you could see the silhouette. And I was like, yeah, I can actually see that.
Yeah.
I can actually see it. The other story I had is I was talking to somebody, I don't know, a few years back. They were talking about a place in Cambridge, or just south of Cambridge, I think it was. I can't remember the name of the place. And it was like these caves. I think it's like caves or some underground tunnels. It was something along those lines. And apparently there was a lot of apparitions sighted.
Yeah.
In this area. And then this person mentioned the ley lines.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what I'm just about to say. Mm-hmm. So one of those ley lines passed very close to where these tunnels were.
Yeah.
So intriguing.
I mean, I've done a little bit of dowsing.
Yeah.
I can dowse. I've found water lines with dowsing rods before. You can definitely feel when those rods move in your hand, and that's all connected to the ley lines. The energy you're feeling, I don't know how the rods translate that energy through your body and into those pieces of rod in your hand, but it definitely works. And if somewhere like, I'm sure, I can't remember if it's Stonehenge or Avebury, but one of them has something like 7 or 8 ley lines all cross at that point. So you can imagine the amount of energy that is in that place.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So,
if it's Avebury, then
I'm pretty certain it is Avebury. I mean,
there's vibes that come out of that place.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing place.
Yeah, like we said in last week's podcast, it's actually it's just a lot of vibes.
Yeah, it's a great place.
So I do believe that is all the questions I had for you.
Okay. Well, that's been good. I enjoyed it.
And you told us about some of... actually, no, quickly, just before we go, tell us a bit more about your experiences with crop circles in the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
We're talking about, is it Black?
Yeah, we live right in the middle of Crop Circle Central here. Being a young man in the 70s and 80s, me and several friends used to travel around looking at crop circles, Some of them are definitely made by human beings, there is no shadow of a doubt. But there's also a small percentage that I just can't explain. I've been driving around in the summer with friends, we're going out, we're looking for crop circles. You drive by it, 6 o'clock in the early evening, there's nothing in the field. I've come back at like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning and there's a massive crop circle there. Where did it come from? Is it possible to build that in that time? Well, it doesn't actually get dark in the summer here till 9, 10 o'clock really in the middle of the summer, which means if anybody did do it in the dark so they weren't seen, they'd have to do it in a couple of hours, and I don't think some of them were possible to do in that time period. There's a lot of people involved in the crop circle scene. Lots of people will tell you that they know how all the crop circles were made. There's certainly a lot of people around who know how some of them were made, but I don't think they can say all of them, honestly. No. There were some chaps around by the name of Doug and Dave. They were quite famous. They came out into the newspapers, I think it was early 70s or late 70s or early 80s, saying they faked all the crop circles. But if you've ever watched how they say they did it with a board and a piece of string, some of them are just too intricate for them to have done all of them. Yeah, some of the simpler ones I'm sure they could have done. And I do know of a group of people who are artists who go and do crop circles in fields. Some of their works are absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. But theirs is very well planned. They have a large group of people. They go into the field. They've got a really well executed plan. They can make a fairly big crop circle in probably a couple of hours. Yeah. But it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Those people saw crop circles, thought they were beautiful, and wanted to replicate them. Yeah.
Where did they
That
come from first?
Isn't where it started. I mean, when you look at crop circles and you go back right into the history of time, you've got the things like the mowing devil, which was when they said that circles appeared in the field, and they believed that the devil had been out in the night mowing in the field. You know, circle of corn suddenly just all led round. So it certainly goes back beyond what people do now. Hard to tell. I do think they're whatever or whoever makes them, they're beautiful and very interesting.
Very cool.
Okay.
So I'm going to wrap it up there.
All right, Dave.
So I hope everybody enjoyed. I want to say thank you to Richard as well for sharing his experiences and his views and thoughts on different paranormal things. As normal, we hope you enjoyed this podcast, and please, if you could like, share, and subscribe, that'd be very, very much
like
appreciated.
And subscribe, everybody. Yeah. We love it.
That'd be very, very much appreciated. Keep an eye on the channel for more investigations. There'll be some more ghost stories coming up, and there's going to be some more podcasts as well.
There sure is.
Future.
Yeah.
So on that note, hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Whatever you're doing, please take care and goodbye.
Good night.